Now we're talking about the Knights Templar. You have knights, you have knight brothers, you have masons who built their stuff, you have sergeant brothers. Not all of them were knights, but there were tons of them towards the end. So the Knights Templar implemented the world's first international banking system.
Mm-hmm.
And this is important when we get into the powerful families behind the scenes today, the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, all that stuff. But the Knights Templar implemented the world's first international banking system. Because these Christian pilgrims were being robbed for their gold as they went to the Holy Land, the Knights Templar set up banks in Europe and banks in the Middle East where you could deposit your gold into a European bank. They would give you a cryptic code, a phrase or something that only you and the bank knew the answer to. You leave your gold there. You take that cryptic message down to the Holy Land. You turn it into a Templar bank. You give them the secret phrase, and they would give you your money. So they implemented the first international banking system. They became extremely wealthy through holding land and gold and through the banking system. They dug for relics and treasures. They were given the Temple of Solomon Mount in Jerusalem as their headquarters when they were first founded. And so that leads into the speculation, did they obtain the Ark of the Covenant? What other artifacts did they obtain? The Holy Grail, relics of all sorts. And so that's a bit of the history of the Knights Templar. But then we'll get into the destruction. So in 1307, King Philip IV of France, he owed a lot of money to a lot of people, primarily to the Knights Templar. He had bankrupted France through frivolous wars and campaigns. So he decided he was going to, instead of paying back his debts, which he couldn't do, he was going to get rid of the people to whom he owed. So he outlawed all Jews in France, burned anyone that wouldn't leave at the Isle of the Jews. And then the Knights Templar, he declared them heretics. And the order was put out on October the 13th, which is Friday the 13th, one night, and all the Templars in France were arrested, hundreds of them. This is speculated as the event that gave Friday the 13th its bad luck. And so he accused them of heresy, he accused them of spitting on the cross, accused them of worshiping Baphomet, which people weren't sure what that was. Is it the head of John the Baptist? Is it a teraphim, a mummified head? All kinds of different things. But anyway, the Knights Templar were accused of all kinds of different things. And basically, the Knights Templar was snuffed out. But instead of getting destroyed, they just became more secretive. They changed their name, moved over to Portugal, because the King of Portugal was an ally of the Knights Templar. The most notable story is Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar in 1314, probably 7 years after this. He was forced to confess publicly about how the Knights Templar were a bunch of heretics, tell King Philip IV where their treasure was. And so they burned Jacques de Molay at the stake. He said, instead of recanting his confession, he said, no, we are innocent people. And they burned him. And he said while he was burning that King Philip IV and Pope Clement V would both be dead within a year. He cursed them as he was dying. And he was burned at the stake. And within a year, both of them were dead.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is we found 10 years ago in the Vatican archives, they found a letter from Pope Clement V saying that he didn't believe the Knights Templar were guilty. So, as we get into the Vatican archives, things come forth and we see new things come to light. King Philip IV of France, he killed two popes to get Clement V put in because he wanted the Catholic Church to disband the Knights Templar because they were a Catholic Church army. So he had the first Pope, Benedict something, beaten to death, and the next one poisoned until he got Pope Clement V in, and then he moved the papacy to France. And so, yeah, there was a lot of, that's kind of how the Knights Templar were snuffed out. But they weren't snuffed out because they moved over to Portugal, where they had lands already, and they became more secretive, the Order of the Knights of Christ instead of the Knights Templar. And this is evidenced by the Portuguese explorers that sailed all across the world, discovering the New World, discovering all over the world. What do you see in the portraits of these Portuguese sailors, Portuguese captains? They're all wearing Knights Templar crosses. Go look them up. They're all wearing Knights Templar crosses in their portraits. What do you see on Christopher Columbus's sails on his ships? You see red Knights Templar crosses. So the Knights Templars' ideology, their vision for the world, kind of spread throughout the world through the Portuguese explorers as they established kingdoms all over the world.